Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's time for another episode. It's time to get real with the real world of sales, a show that's really catching on quickly here at OC Talk Radio and becoming one of our most interesting conversations because our host finds the most interesting people doing really amazing things and then talks about how they sell themselves in these services here. So without any further ado, the woman who's pulling it all together, Ashley V. Welcome, Ashley V.
Thanks, Paul. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the show. We want to give a shout out to our new sponsor, Earth Vodka. They've been picked as the best new vodka by wine enthusiasts, and they're right here in Orange County, so make sure you check them out. And we have an amazing guest here today. We have Marissa Alma Nick. Marissa, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Marissa is an author, an entrepreneur, professional dancer. Marissa, why don't you tell us a bit about where you're from, how you grew up, and how you became who you are today, being so successful?
A lot of tenacity. I'm from Miami, and born and raised here. Been dancing my whole life. And I always really, to be honest, had a vision for myself to have a dance company. As I was telling you earlier, I at one point moved to LA to pursue commercial dancing after I finished getting my BFA in dance performance.
Wow,
And then
that's
I
great.
finally moved back to Miami to start my dance company. However, the interesting part, the thing that I never really planned to do was actually professionally pursue writing. But in 2020, I
Okay.
sustained like a career-ending double meniscus tear, which required 4 surgeries over the last couple years.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so, yeah, um, so I did this pivot, and I have been writing. Just it was sort of anonymous and secret. The world knew me as a dancer and choreographer. Period. That's been my career for the last 10 years. So, writing was already like my secret. But here we are. I
Yeah,
finally,
definitely.
some things happen, and you just go for it, right?
Right, right. And so dancing has been, a really important part of your life, and as far as like business, entrepreneurship, and your book. So, and you also incorporated dancing in your book, which I read, the Rebel and Venus book, and it's a remarkable book. So, why do take us to like what made you decide to write your book in the first place?
Yeah. The book is, it's I again, like I never set out to write this book, but to be honest, the things that were happening for me, along with the meniscus surgeries, I also 2 weeks after my first repair surgery, I lost my best friend to suicide. A couple months after that, the
Wow, sorry to
pandemic
hear
hit.
that. Yeah, COVID
Yeah,
messed up.
and so
Hmm.
the industry, I mean, the world even just sort of shut down. And I think this happened for a lot of people. Aside from the personal things that had happened to me, I think the pandemic shifted a lot for a lot of people.
Right.
Um, Gave us forced us into like internalized retrospection. So that really happened with me, and I found myself though in a dark place. And I've always been a very go-getter. Like as you said, my company I built from scratch.
Wow,
And
that's
as a woman, I
amazing.
always found that to
Mhm.
be yeah, and I was really, proud of that. I've never not been motivated, and I've been told no so many times with grants, and I would find ways to make the shows happen anyway, and always find a way to pay my dancers and never give up. But I found myself in
Yeah.
a pretty dark place. So I
Oh,
started
okay.
writing,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
I
writing
think the
is really
things that I
healing.
was
Hmm.
yeah, absolutely. So I found the writing I took a little bit more seriously once unexpectedly shared it with somebody. And the book itself, it's the here's the book, but the book itself is really
Nice.
about two friends.
Uh-huh.
And something that I really wanted to key in on is the power of our friendships beyond the surface, and the power of vulnerability between friends, and how that can not just save each other but ourselves. So,
Right.
the
Hmm.
the book
So
is
the book,
really about
it,
friendship.
okay, I see. And then so the book I noticed it's about your character and the character, is it kind of like about yourself? Is it kind of like the book is written about your own life, or is it just a fiction book?
It's semi-autobiographical. It is fiction.
Okay.
I pulled a lot from. It's not entirely my story, but a lot of it is heavily inspired by my own story. Yes.
Okay, okay. Because I was wondering that, like maybe if it was about you, why you didn't write autobiography instead of a fiction book using a character to portray
I
you.
think just, yeah, I think just my background in the theater and entertainment and what I know, I love the freedom to how I want to create something and how I wanted to present something. And the book is almost written like a screenplay and a book. I
Okay,
wanted to take some creative liberties as well, just with how I told the story. And pieces as I wrote, I don't know about every other writer, but you sort of imagine something, and then once you get into it, it evolves. And
right.
so the way these characters in the story evolved also kind of migrated from my own true story. So it didn't fit in the perfect box of a memoir. So
Okay.
I allowed it to
Hmm.
become what it became.
I see. Yeah, because that's what I was wondering. If you're an author and you want to write a book that's about your own life in a way, and you want to sell it and promote it, is there something there in the way you're going to promote your book that determines if you're writing an autobiography or writing a book like you did with your character that's about yourself?
Yes, I think there's definitely power in it. What I'm definitely leading with, especially with like the publicity tour, is that I do very much that this I'm a trauma survivor myself. And so I do own that part of the book very much. The parts that are very close to home are the more traumatic parts and how I've had to navigate my own trauma. Also almost losing, my own self to myself, as I said. But I think that
Right.
there's also
Hmm.
power
Yeah.
in fiction. I think that like that's where fables come from and folklore and theology even. We use these very truth inspired stories to tell, the meaning of the story that we're trying to say. So I think that when you decide to write a fiction or a memoir, as long as you're being authentic in where it comes from and who you are behind that story, I think that because of my own experience, I was better able to give actual empathetic life to these characters. And so I use
Right.
that as far as when
Hmm.
it goes to marketing this, that I have that I have that ability that maybe some others may not.
Yeah, definitely. I see what you're saying. And the character Layla, when she was going through a lot of traumatic experiences in relationships and friendships in the book, it was very relatable. I think that a lot of people can heal from even reading your book and they can relate to it and it can be really powerful for them. Is there any audience that you wanted to focus your book for?
Oh, 100%. Even the dedication, when you first read the book, it says, for the girls and anyone daring to live a life free of shame. I think that the unfortunate truth is that a lot of female Americans, but also in other parts of the world, but this is such an American story, have experienced, whether it's like very benign or intensely traumatic, some sort of sexual trauma. And I think just
Sure.
also
Right.
there's so much suffering with depression and anxiety. We just lost another, famous actor today to a gunshot suicide. And I think that I also really wanted
Yeah.
people who
Hmm.
struggle with depression and anxiety and even suicide and thoughts of that to know that they're not a burden, and they can even see themselves as a hero, so much so that they're able to seek the help that they may get. Because when you carry so much shame and feeling like there's something wrong with you, I think that that gets in our own way. And I use our very strongly
Yeah.
because I
Hmm.
am one of those people who is still constantly navigating this.
And that's
So
what's
it's, yeah.
Yeah, that's what's really amazing too about your story is that, and how the book is similar is that you've overcome a lot and you're still successful. You've been a professional dancer, author, and entrepreneur, and so I like that you overcame it. That's what I when I read the book at the end of it, how Layla she goes to therapy and she ends up trying to heal from her depression and anxiety. Is there going to be a second book that you're going to write that's going to show us like what happened to Layla and how her life has changed? That's kind of something I was wondering at the end because I'm like, what's happening next? Like, what's going to happen to her? And I was like, oh, I want to know.
I know, it's so funny. I think actually what I'm gonna do, because I have actually started to write a second book, but it has nothing to do
Okay.
with actually
Hmm.
Rebel and Venus. But you're not the first person to ask that. And so what I've been wanting to do with the one
Uh huh.
year from when it was published was just in May. I want to do a re-release of a second edition with an
Okay.
epilogue of maybe like 1 to 2 chapters of a what happens next, and add that in as like a special edition.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think it would be neat because it's a very good book to read. It's very fast and easy, and it's very interesting. It wasn't boring at all, and I mean, I was able to finish the book right away. It's like I wanted to always know what was going to happen next, and it was really relatable. It was kind of like reading, like taking therapy, reading the book. I really, it was very helpful. And the book,
That's awesome.
yeah, definitely. I think can help a lot of people, like you said, girls, and then also even the queer community, because there were some relationships as well that you
Yes.
described, and some, abuse and different things that happened. So is that also a target audience for your book?
Oh, for sure. I definitely label myself a queer indie author. And Layla, the protagonist herself, is also queer. And, I just, what was interesting about though writing this, why I made Layla queer was less to do with me. But when writing this,
Okay.
my experience with trauma and being, out and queer, a lot of times with girls or women specifically, when you say that you're now gay or queer and a lesbian, and you also have had sexual trauma, sometimes that gets lumped into the same, oh well, that must be why you're gay. And so I wanted to write a
Sure.
character that is of both experiences, and showing that one has nothing to do with the other and one doesn't inform the other. They can be two very different experiences experienced by the same person. And so that
Sure.
was
I see.
important for me to write that into the book. Yeah.
No, definitely. I think that's great. I think that is, important topic to also address nowadays. And
Mm.
there's just so much happening. And for your books, Rebel and Venus and your next book, how are you promoting it to different groups? Like, what kind of sales strategies are you doing? And, there's a lot happening in the news, and you're in Florida. The governor there is always fighting Disney and things. And so,
Yes, to say that he is always fighting Disney and things. That is a nice
yeah.
way to put it.
Yeah, yeah. So how do you get your book out there right now during these times and everything?
It has been interesting. In Florida specifically, it has been
Okay.
a, as you said, there's like a book ban, for example, and this race theory. There's a anti-woke movement happening. So I haven't been able to, in Florida, been
Wow.
able to get the book into libraries or the schools because of what's happening here, which is very bizarre.
So because it's a queer book, you can't have it in any libraries in
There's
Florida.
also a story about abortion
Oh,
in the book
wow.
as well.
So
That's a
they won't let
very
any books like
pro.
that be in the libraries or schools
It's
or anywhere?
Well, so what's happening is there's different teachers or parents. It's still a little ambiguous how that's happening, but they're going around into libraries reading books. This notoriously just happened with one of the Amanda
Wow.
Gorman
I didn't
poetry books,
Oh my
that
gosh.
somebody, like a
I didn't know
parent,
that.
cited it, filled out a paper, and said something as basic as like, I don't trust the way, like I don't like the lesson this is teaching my child, basically.
Wow. Oh my
And so because
gosh.
this is allowed in Florida,
Crazy.
people are really, moving with it. So as far as that
I
goes, I've
see.
sort of been
Mhm.
like, it's the promotion has been then guerrilla style. As far as the teenage market goes, thankfully from dance, I have
Okay.
this group
Mhm.
of teenagers that I've taught, and students at the University of Miami, and so through like actual personal connections, I've been able to target that specific market. My friend in Orlando who runs like this
That's
big
great. Mhm.
gay burlesque night, you sort of have to
Mhm.
guerrilla market it.
I
And
see.
so,
Wow.
and yeah, beyond Florida, there's been a different, it's easier. I'm going to use the
Mhm.
word easier. It's been easier to access
Yeah.
or get the book distributed. Not have to fight fear,
So
which is understandable as well.
and that's what's been it's been crazy to me because I feel like if you don't want your kids to read certain books, just tell them don't read these books. I mean, if you're a parent, like, why do
Yes.
you have to always patrol everything? I mean, you can't make anything perfect. I don't know. I think that's so bizarre. Maybe in California here, nobody really cares. I mean, we have like major issues happening.
Florida's
So,
always been bizarre. Like I feel like I have inspiration for years just from Florida stories alone, but what's happening politically is a new has been new. It's also
uh huh.
causing like a migration, which is understandable, but it is what it is.
Yeah,
And so like as an entrepreneur and making things successful, you don't give up.
right.
You find your way,
Definitely.
through it. And
Hmm.
and also thankfully I can also move this book beyond the state, which I am.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And And we're going to get more into that, Marissa. Right now, we just wanted to also mention our Earth Vodka new sponsor and give another shout out to them because they have some awesome stuff happening right now, too.
And let's do that. Let's cut to a quick commercial here while we ponder everything you guys are telling us here today. Here, we want you to cool down. If things are getting too hot out there, cool down with exceptionally smooth and clean Earth Vodka. Winner the best new vodka from Wine Enthusiast magazine. And did you know it's based here in Orange County? Earth Vodka is made locally to reduce the carbon footprint and uses labels made from recycled paper, for example, all to help the earth and enjoy your drink at the same time. Gluten-free, made from grain, 40% alcohol, and handcrafted by their local expert team. You can impress your friends with Earth Vodka in a martini, a mojito, or other cocktails. We threw mojito in because we're talking about Florida here today and Cuba. And you can get Earth Vodka at Bevmo and Total Wine and more. Of course, you got to be 21 and over to try it. But if you have any questions or if you want more information, you can contact us here or contact Earth Vodka. Follow them on Instagram and check it out. Can I ask a quick question? I'm just sitting here listening to this amazing story. I'm an old white guy listening to these new tales from the frontier here. And you're right at the front lines of where this culture clash is happening here. Was any of that an inspiration for you, or has it been it's clearly been an obstacle locally? I guess, was this book just accidentally birthed at this moment, or was it part of a
Yeah.
conscious effort in your part to make a statement here?
No, it was definitely not intentional. The universe just seems to have a fun time with me. Like I definitely didn't plan the four meniscus surgeries,
No.
losing my friend, like the pandemic. It's just like as the book was getting published, it almost didn't click because sometimes information is overwhelming. And it didn't click until one of my friends, well, she's like a I mentor her. She was graduating high school. I gave her an early copy of the book. She sent me a picture of her holding the book in the cafeteria with her friends. But then she texted me, "Please don't post this on social media, so we or our teacher don't get in trouble." And that's
Wow.
when I was like, "Oh, okay."
And Marissa, and that's
So
also like it's also, your book is kind of correlates to the whole Me Too movement as well. That's been
exactly,
happening.
yeah. I mean, this is our governor's anti-woke agenda. The book. The only thing that's missing from it is that there's not a specific black character, but there's a lot of brown Latina characters, very queer, very very pro pro-choice. As I said, the
Right.
abortion story, which is pretty graphic,
Yeah, I
also
read that.
comical.
Yeah, it was that was
But
interesting for sure. And I was like, wow, this is like a really neat, like real life kind of example. It's like very like realistic to the situation, before and after that people really don't think about.
well, yeah, and that's, I feel like books to me have always, books, I write because books have saved me. Like I was always the girl, I would skip school and go to the library in downtown Miami. It's how
Yeah.
I, learned about other experiences, or especially coming out queer, early. That was like when I was just in college when I decided to come out, and I was in Tampa for college, and there was like this one little tiny bookshelf with the gay experiences. And I mean, I read every book on that shelf top to bottom because it was my first glance inside a world that I just, even though I knew it was who I was, I didn't have this information or these conversations. And so, like, for example, that abortion
Hmm.
story, it's not that you're telling everybody to run out and go get pregnant so you can have an abortion. It's fun. But it is also,
Right.
if this
Hmm.
happens to you, here are the decisions you can make.
Yes.
This is what it would be like.
Hmm.
And also, you don't have to feel guilty about it, or even some sort of regret, which was also important for me, because I think sometimes
Yeah.
it's,
Hmm.
we're meant to feel as though we have to apologize for our actions, not just for abortions, but for women in everything, how you dress, how you speak, and that can become exhausting. So I
Yeah,
really
it
wanted to
definitely.
reflect that.
Right, and it really, I think your book is really helpful for building confidence and for women and just teaching women, how it's like you're not alone. There's other people,
Hmm.
and
Yes.
so how are you promoting your book in nowadays? Like, what kind of sales are you doing? Are you doing like outbound sales? Are you doing online sales?
Both. So definitely online, through Amazon and Kindle, all the ebook platforms. Amazon, and then
Okay,
also
great.
I also really love local bookstores, so I've been also getting distribution in local bookstores. Doing a book tour. I had to put a little delay on it these last 2 months because I had to have that fourth knee surgery, but it's picking up in September, which I'll
Wow.
be in New York.
Yeah, we hope you're doing,
Um,
you're going to be okay. I mean,
I'll
that's
be
a lot.
fine.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're tough,
I'll
so
be
we know
good.
that, you're tough and you're going to write another book. So
Yeah,
it's going to be okay.
yeah. Yeah, and the other thing
Mhm.
that I'm doing now is the audiobook. What was really interesting in the
Okay.
research, and it took me a long time to make sure because I wanted to be done a right way, so I just moved a little slower
Yeah.
with it. But
Mhm.
the research has shown that for publishing whatever type of book you're doing, whether it's independent or from a major publishing house, audiobook is the number one source of sales. So I'm really excited about that.
Wow.
The book has been
Yeah.
out since May. The audiobook will finally be
Yeah.
available next month, and so that'll
Oh, that's
also be
awesome.
the
Hmm.
next platform, which I have yet to step into.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. I think audio, like you said, it's very helpful and popular now because people can listen to your book as they're driving, as they're at the gym working out, as they're
Yeah,
jogging. It's just, easier to live your life and listen instead of reading and sitting down, and things are really changing. It's becoming digital. So your book is on
hmm,
Amazon. Rebel and Venus is on Amazon. It's on
yep,
barnesandnoble.com. And then you have a website too, right?
yes,
Rebelandvenus.com. Okay.
exactly. Which would have all this information as well as the book tour dates.
Yeah, so the book tour, that's another awesome thing that I think you were that I saw is that you're actually going around and doing meet and greets, right?
Yes, yes, I'm doing a live reading of a chapter from the book, and then I also have a
That's
moderator.
great.
She's an amazing friend, Lutzi Segu, and she's here from Miami as well. She's agreed to go on the road with me, but we do a moderated Q&A, and then open it up to the audience as well. So the whole thing goes on for about an hour, and then I do a book signing, which is, it's so rewarding because those are the
Yeah,
moments where this is all
that's
very new
great.
for me, but it's
Hmm.
the connection of the readers that I really love about that part, how the book is
Yeah,
speaking to
definitely.
them.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think it's neat. People can actually meet you and then ask you questions about your book, buy your book, you can
Hmm.
sign it. That's always fun, meeting an
Yeah, it
author.
is.
Yeah,
It is.
definitely. And so you're on the road across the whole country or certain
Yeah.
areas?
Yeah, I'm going September I'll be in New York. And then in October back in Orlando and Winter Park, and then also to Austin, Texas, and then oh my God, Provincetown after that. Yeah.
Wow, okay, that's great. Those are
And
those
in
are really
counting.
cool
So we're working
places.
on some more spots as well, but that's where we're
Okay.
at yet right now.
Yeah, definitely. No, those are good places. They're nearby. You can go to a lot of bookstores. So I really like that aspect too, because a lot of authors need to do more outbound sales, I think, too, for their books, get their name out. So, Marissa, thank you so much for being on the show today. You have an amazing, remarkable book. It's going to help a lot of people, I'm sure. So
Thank you
everybody
so
go to
much.
yeah, and everybody go to Marissa's website, rebelandvenus.com. Go to Amazon, buy her book there, contact her, and you can see where she's going to be at, so you can go visit her.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye, everybody. Thank you, Ashley.
You're welcome.
Well, there you have it. One more reason to tune in each and every time. Meet some really interesting people doing some really unusual, special things out there, and the real challenges they have selling that to the world, selling themselves, right here on Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio, streaming live from our studios here at the University of California, Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center.